Hi, Mick McQuaid here to talk to you about teamwork, and in particular to talk to you about a famous book called Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And the five dysfunctions of a team are absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. Now, this book, Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, is available to you for free from Wallace Library, and I would like you to read it. But I'm just going to give you a brief overview now of each of the five dysfunctions. The first one is absence of trust, and this book defines trust as confidence in team intentions, and that may differ from the way that you define trust. But the idea of this kind of trust is if you have this trust, if you have confidence in team intentions, then you have no reason to be protective around the team. You have no reason to be careful around the team. You're free to expose your vulnerabilities around the team. And your vulnerabilities may include things like weaknesses, skill deficiencies, interpersonal shortcomings, and your mistakes. And if you have trust, you can focus on the job instead of focusing on your interpersonal strategy. And that's important. So members of teams with an absence of trust have these kinds of problems. They conceal their weaknesses and mistakes from one another. They hesitate to ask for help or provide constructive feedback. They hesitate to offer help outside their own areas of responsibility. They jump to conclusions about the intentions and aptitudes of others without attempting to clarify them. They fail to recognize and tap into one another's skills and experiences. They waste time and energy managing their behaviors for effect. They hold grudges and they dread meetings and find reasons to avoid spending time together. On the other hand, teams that have overcome this dysfunction admit weaknesses and mistakes, ask for help, accept questions and inputs about their areas of responsibility, give one another the benefit of the doubt before arriving at a negative conclusion, take risks in offering feedback and assistance, appreciate and tap into one another's skills and experiences, focus time and energy on important issues, not on politics, offer and accept apologies without hesitation, look forward to meetings and other opportunities to work as a group. And some suggestions for becoming this team. The easy one is personal history exercise. That's something that you can do when you first get together as a team. Reveal some personal history to each other. Take some time. Take a half an hour to half an hour total for team members to reveal something about their past, and this can help you break down barriers at the beginning of a team effort. And after you've been a team for a while, another exercise that you can try is team effectiveness. So in this exercise, you very candidly and straightforwardly tell each other what is effective about you and what is ineffective about you. And this takes some trust. You already have to have some trust to do this, and it will build further trust to candidly talk about effectiveness and ineffectiveness. And of course, the leader has to demonstrate vulnerability. And I mean genuine vulnerability. I'm not talking about the kind of vulnerability where people say they're a terrible cook, or they are afraid of public speaking, and these kinds of things that people say that are just platitudes. I mean, a leader has to demonstrate genuine vulnerability, and that's difficult to do. Fear of conflict is the second dysfunction. And I should clarify that there are different kinds of conflict, and I'm only talking about productive ideological conflict. Another kind of conflict would be destructive interpersonal conflict, and of course we don't want that. What we want is productive ideological conflict, and people fear that. And the reason they fear it is because they want to avoid hurting people's feelings by disagreeing. And when you avoid hurting feelings, you're risking dangerous tension, because conflict can be a time saver, and that is because simmering tensions can be time wasters. So teams that fear conflict have boring meetings, create environments where back-channel politics and personal attacks thrive, ignore controversial topics that are critical to team success, fail to tap into the opinions and perspectives of team members, waste time and energy with posturing and interpersonal risk management. Teams that have overcome this dysfunction have lively, interesting meetings, extract and exploit the ideas of team members, solve real problems quickly, minimize politics, and put critical topics on the table for discussion. And some suggestions to become this kind of team include mining. So that means that one team member becomes the conflict miner for the day. So the conflict miner has the responsibility to find what's lurking beneath and surface it. And having that responsibility gives this person a free pass to say things that otherwise might be difficult to say. And once you start saying those things, once you start surfacing conflict, you'll start to feel awkward and it will be difficult to continue. So when people in your team do surface conflict, you have to give them real-time permission to continue. There will come a point where they feel awkward and want to clam up, and you have to give them permission during that time to continue the conflict and resolve it. And the leader has to model appropriate conflict behavior. There's nothing worse than there are a few things worse than a leader who tries to change the subject when conflict comes up. That's a sign of a very poor leader, someone who continually changes the subject when conflict arises. The third dysfunction is lack of commitment. And by this I mean lack of commitment to a decision or a course of action. And the reason that we fail to commit to a decision or a course of action is because we overseek consensus. We need certainty. We're afraid to act without complete consensus, or we're afraid to follow an uncertain course. So a team that fails to commit creates ambiguity among the team about direction and priorities. That team watches the windows of opportunity close due to excessive analysis and unnecessary delay. That team breeds lack of confidence and fear of failure, and that team revisits discussions and decisions again and again and encourages second guessing among team members. On the other hand, a team that acts decisively and commits to a course of action creates clarity around direction and priorities, aligns the entire team around common objectives, develops an ability to learn from mistakes, because you will make mistakes if you are decisive, takes advantage of opportunities before competitors do, moves forward without hesitation, and recognizes that you may move forward in the wrong direction, and so consequently you change direction without hesitation or guilt about having taken the wrong direction, because you recognize that there's a risk in being decisive. So some suggestions for becoming that team include cascading messaging. So that means that if you have a team meeting that includes some of the members of the team, that meeting you have to emerge from that meeting with decisive messaging, and that messaging has to cascade to the other team members. You have to set deadlines and stick to them. So if you go into a meeting that you know has to result in a course of action, you say, we'll take an hour to come up with a course of action. If we haven't got an ideal course of action after an hour, we're going to go with the course of action that we've got, even if not everybody agrees with it, even if we're uncertain about whether that's the best course of action. And we set that deadline and we stick to it. And that is going to result sometimes in mistakes. And so in addition to setting deadlines, we also have to make contingency plans. We have to recognize that our decisions may result in failure, and we have to have contingency plans in case of failure. And finally, we might engage in low-risk exposure. So that means low-risk exposure therapy. And that means that we act decisively when the stakes are low. And that gives us practice in acting decisively, and that practice carries over to the times when it's important and gives us more confidence about acting decisively in times when it's more important. The fourth dysfunction is avoidance of accountability, and this means holding people accountable for results. And it's difficult to hold people accountable for results. Holding people accountable for results is uncomfortable, and so we experience an unwillingness to tolerate this personal discomfort in difficult conversations. A team that avoids accountability creates resentment among team members who have different standards of performance. It encourages mediocrity, it misses deadlines and misses key deliverables, and places an undue burden on the team leader as the sole source of discipline. The team has to hold the team members accountable. A team that does hold one another accountable ensures that poor performers feel pressure to improve, pressure from the whole team. Identifies potential problems quickly by questioning one another's approaches without hesitation. Establishes respect among team members who are held to the same high standards, and avoids excessive bureaucracy around performance management and corrective action because the team is taking responsibility. So some suggestions for becoming this team are to publish goals and standards. You'd be amazed at what just publishing your team covenants can do to improve your ability to achieve accountability. Simple progress reviews, and the simpler the progress reviews are, the better, because they'll happen and they'll be more frequent and they'll be more useful. And of course, team rewards for success always make the team pull together. The fifth and final dysfunction of a team is inattention to results. And you may ask, what would you attend to besides results? And this is a little bit more subtle than the other dysfunctions. What substitutes for results are sometimes team status or individual status. So let me give you an example. As a teacher, let's say that I say that here's an example of a team that has done something really well, and I focus on the result, the thing that they did well, and why it's a good thing. That's great. But say instead I say, this is a really great team. You should try to be like this team. This is an exemplary team, or this is an exemplary individual. Try to be more like this person. So now I'm emphasizing the status of the individual or the team instead of emphasizing the results of the team, and that's a problem. What's going to happen? If we have that problem, a team that's not focused on results is going to stagnate. A team that's not focused on results rarely defeats competitors. A team that is not focused on results loses achievement-oriented employees and encourages team members to focus on their own careers and individual goals. Now, to some extent, you have to focus on your own career and individual goals. I'm talking about to the detriment of the team here. And such a team is easily distracted. A team that is focused on collective results can retain achievement-oriented employees and minimize individualistic behavior. And again, some individualistic behavior is necessary. I'm not saying that it should be stamped out completely. Such a team enjoys success and suffers failure acutely, really knows when it has failed and doesn't want that to happen again. Such a team benefits from individuals who subjugate their own goals or interests for the good of the team, and such a team avoids distractions. And the suggestions for becoming this team probably seem pretty obvious. Publicize results and have results-based rewards. That brings us to the end of the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Again, I want you to go to the library, or go to the library's website, I should say, and download this book and read it. It's quite valuable, and I'd like you to practice some of these suggestions on your own team. Good luck with it. Thanks for your attention.